Every night at exactly 12 o'clock, the footsteps began, slow and deliberate, echoing through the narrow hallway of the old house at the edge of Nurabad town, a place people avoided even during daylight because something about it felt wrong, as if the walls themselves were watching and remembering things they should have forgotten long ago. The house belonged to Samir, a quiet writer who had moved there seeking silence after the death of his wife, believing isolation would help him heal, but from the very first night he sensed he was not alone. The footsteps started softly, like bare feet touching cold stone, moving from the far end of the corridor toward his bedroom door, stopping just inches away, lingering as if the unseen walker was listening to his breathing. At first, Samir convinced himself it was stress, grief playing tricks on his mind, but when the footsteps repeated every night, always at midnight, never earlier, never later, his fear deepened. He tried staying awake to catch the source, sitting in the dark with a lamp and his heart pounding, but each time the clock struck 12, the footsteps would begin only when he closed his eyes, as if whatever walked the hallway knew exactly when he was vulnerable. The house itself seemed to change after midnight. The air grew colder, the shadows thicker, stretching unnaturally across the walls, and the faint smell of damp earth filled the rooms, as though the ground beneath the house had opened its mouth and was breathing upward. Samir noticed old details he hadn't seen before: scratches on the floorboards, like claw marks, dark stains beneath the wallpaper, and a locked door at the end of the hall that he was certain hadn't been there when he first moved in. One night, driven by terror and exhaustion, he followed the footsteps instead of hiding from them, stepping barefoot into the hallway just as the sound echoed again, louder now, heavier, as if the walker had gained weight with every passing night. The footsteps stopped when he stopped, and for the first time, Samir heard breathing that was not his own, slow, wet, and close to his ear, causing his blood to run cold. He spun around, but the hallway was empty. Yet the wall beside him felt warm, pulsing faintly like skin. As days passed, Samir stopped sleeping. Dark circles formed under his eyes, and his reflection in the mirror no longer looked entirely like him, appearing thinner, paler, as though something was slowly draining him. He asked the townspeople about the house, but they avoided his gaze, offering only fragmented warnings, until an elderly man finally whispered the truth. The house had been built over an old burial path, a place where bodies were once carried at midnight to avoid daylight judgment, and sometimes the dead forgot where they were going. That night, the footsteps returned louder than ever, no longer stopping at Samir's door but circling his bed, pacing endlessly, while the locked door at the end of the hallway creaked open on its own, releasing a smell so foul and ancient that Samir retched. From the darkness emerged a shape tall, twisted, dragging 1 foot behind it, its head bowed at an impossible angle, its face hidden, yet its presence pressing down on Samir's chest until he couldn't breathe. When it finally spoke, its voice sounded like gravel and soil grinding together, whispering, "You walk my path now." The footsteps grew frantic, echoing not just through the house but inside Samir's skull, memories flooding his mind that were not his own visions of mourners. Lanterns flickering in the dark, bodies wrapped in white cloth, and a man buried alive, pounding desperately from beneath the earth at midnight, his footsteps unheard by the living. Samir realized the truth too late. The house wasn't haunted by a ghost. Wandering aimlessly, it was haunted by a path, and anyone who lived there would eventually be forced to walk it. As the clock struck 12 once more, Samir felt his feet move without his permission, stepping into the hallway, joining the rhythm of footsteps that had echoed for generations. His scream swallowed by the walls as the house welcomed another walker into its endless midnight march. When Samir's feet touched the hallway floor at midnight, the wood felt strangely soft beneath his solace, as though it had been warmed by countless footsteps before his own, and the sound he made did not belong to him alone but merged seamlessly with an older rhythm that pulsed through the house like a second heartbeat, guiding him forward despite his terror, despite the last fragile part of him screaming to stop. The corridor seemed longer than it ever had before, stretching impossibly ahead, its walls breathing in and out, swelling slightly with each step, and as Samir walked, the locked door at the end of the hall opened wider, revealing a darkness so thick it seemed to drink. the light from the flickering bulb overhead. His body moved without command, arms hanging limp, eyes wide and unblinking, while the air grew heavier with every pace, carrying whispers that layered over one another, voices of men, women, children, all murmuring the same broken plea, "Don't stop! Don't stop!" Images flooded his mind again, sharper this time, more violent, lantern-bearers trudging through mud at midnight, faces hidden, their breaths visible in the cold. Coffins creaking as they were lowered into shallow earth, hands clawing upward from beneath the soil, nails splitting, blood soaking into the ground where the path would later be built. Samir staggered as these memories crashed over him, realizing they were memories of every soul that had ever walked this hallway. Every person who had unknowingly inherited the path, their lives slowly overwritten until nothing remained but footsteps. As he crossed the threshold of the open door, the house seemed to fall away, replaced by a narrow dirt road stretching endlessly through darkness, lit only by trembling lantern light, and Samir understood with sickening clarity that he was no longer standing inside Nurabad town at all, but inside the past, trapped in a looping moment that had never truly ended. Around him, shadowy figures walked in silence, their heads bowed, feet moving in perfect unison, and though their faces were blurred and indistinct, Samir felt their despair as if it were his own, a crushing weight of regret, fear, and unfinished lives. He tried to scream, but his mouth would not open. Tried to turn back, but the path pulled him forward, each step sealing him deeper into its history. Ahead, he saw the source of the footsteps, a massive, hunched figure formed of earth and bone, its body stitched together from the remains of the buried, dragging itself forward by habit alone, not alive, not dead, but condemned to walk forever because it had been denied rest. The creature paused, slowly turning its head towards Samir, and though it had no eyes, he felt seen in a way that stripped him bare. "You heard us," its voice a chorus of buried throats, "so you belong to us." Tears streamed down Samir's face as fragments of his own life slipped away, his wife's smile fading, her voice dissolving into the wind replaced by memories of the path, until desperation sparked a final resistance within him. With immense effort, he forced his foot to stop, breaking the rhythm for the first time in decades, and the world shuddered violently in response, the lanterns flickering wildly as the shadowy walkers gasped in unison. Pain exploded through Samir's legs as if roots were growing from his feet, trying to anchor him to the soil, but he clung to the memory of love, of loss that was his alone, and screamed her name inside his mind. The path screamed back, the earth cracking open as the hunched figure lunged toward him, furious, its many hands reaching to drag him down and complete the march. Just as its fingers brushed his chest, the sound of a clock chiming echoed distantly, one single chime pulling Samir backward with violent force. He woke on his bedroom floor, gasping for air, the hallway silent at last. The clock on the wall reading 12:01 a.m., the locked door was gone. The smell of earth had faded. For the first time since moving in, the house felt empty. Samir lay there until morning, unsure if he was alive or simply dreaming, but when dawn came and he stepped outside, he saw something that froze his blood, a line of faint footprints in the dust, leading away from his front door and disappearing into the road beyond the house. The townspeople later said the footsteps at midnight had finally stopped, but sometimes, on quiet nights, Samir would wake with dirt beneath his nails and the aching certainty that though he had escaped the path had not entirely let go of him, and somewhere in the darkness, something was still counting the steps, waiting for him to listen again.